Hey guys, how you doing today? Tonight, 8 o'clock at night. It's pretty late. I saw a couple people in here. Hello, everyone. Oh, I did want to open up the questions tab real quick. Let me do that. Tonight's stream, you guys, is going to be directed towards children and teens, young children and teens. And I have a very good friend here with me, and I'm going to bring her up if y'all do not know who she is. It is Catskill Prepper.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Thanks for having
Um,
me.
she is she thinks very critical, very logical. She's very organized, and she has kids herself. So this was the perfect person to have in the conversation. She can touch a lot on the younger children's side, as where I can touch more on the older children's side, because I honestly don't remember a whole heck of a lot from when my sons were little, because it wasn't like this, 15 years ago. So if you want
Absolutely.
to introduce yourself while I quickly open up this questions tab, go right ahead.
Sure. So I'm Catskill Ny Prepper on YouTube. I also have a very active Instagram channel. I actually just changed the name, so it's Catskill Truth Seeker underscores in between. I did that just because I don't discuss as much prepping on that channel. I seem to be on Instagram more just because it's easier with my life, basically. But I do have, I think, over like 60 videos on YouTube. So I was fortunate enough to meet Christy last year at Hudson Valley Prepping and Survivals and meet up, and we really clicked. And I'm happy to be on. So thank you so much. Speaking of children, I have a 5-year-old that I'm home with full time doing homeschool, and I also have a 25-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old son. I had a 22-year-old son, sorry. So definitely they grew up in two different worlds, the two older and the younger.
That was perfect time, and I just got that up there. All right, so if you guys have not subscribed yet to Catskill, please go check her out. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
that the link is going to come up in the chat here soon, so you guys can do that. And then also after the video, I should have done this beforehand, pin her channel in the description to the video. So we were on the Roaming Preppers channel the other day, actually, and someone in the comments had brought up that they would like us to do a live stream discussing preparedness and basically safety, to do a video towards children, directed towards children and towards teens. So we actually connected right after Pete's live, and we were like, "That is a great idea. We've got so much good advice to give kids. We never thought about it." So that was just last weekend, and here we are this weekend to help you guys and help kids and kind of get them going in the right direction with everything going on in the world today. I did open the Q&A box, so if you guys have questions, please post it in there, and I will get to that to the end of this stream. Otherwise, honestly, I miss questions all the time. I'm terrible with the chat, so please just post them in there, and we'll go back to it. But I wanted to start. The first thing I wanted to talk about is if you have kids or if you have teens, how would you bring up the importance of preparedness to them, not really being aware of what's going on all over the world?
Right. I think it really varies obviously on the age, right? So thinking about this with the younger kids, I think it's really important. We were just talking about not scaring the child, right?
Hmm.
So there's very easy ways to incorporate preparedness into your lifestyle. Simple thing I just thought of was camping, right? You go camping, you teach, fire making, how to lay out the tarp and the tent and all these things. And they're just activities. So it will become second nature for the child. For me, that kind of started when I was in Girl Scouts. So even if your child's not a scout or 4-H or anything like that, you just take them camping and, they'll learn right there. With the older ones, I think it's probably more valuable to have an actual conversation, but I think it's still important to make it fun because with teenagers, like they might roll their eyes at you unless they're
Mm-hmm.
really super into it, which I feel like teenagers, if you let them know you're into something, they do the polar opposite. So I think it's important to have those discussions and kind of just have a plan set up. And it's going to look really different for the two sets of ages, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and I think not just doing the tents and so forth, but also how many kids nowadays, um, they just if they're hungry, they pop it in the microwave. And
Very,
they
yes.
don't realize, as far as not scaring kids, I mean, we talk about kids learning preparedness, but you can teach them preparedness, like she said, without scaring them. You can
Hmm.
tell them, like if you live in a hurricane zone or you live in a snow blizzard area or whatever, prepare them to get through those circumstances.
Right.
That way they're aware and they're prepared for those circumstances, and those skills that you teach them in those circumstances will carry over to other circumstances. Um,
Absolutely.
and this means also teaching them if they don't have power, if the power goes out, teach them how to cook on an open fire, teach them that they can still use the barbecue grill. The either lighting charcoal the correct way, how to cook on it the correct way, or even
Right.
a propane, how
Right.
to light that gas grill without blowing themselves up and how to
Right.
safely shut it off after they're done.
That's a
It
great
seems like
point.
such a minor thing, but those are things that they really need to become um, used to having it second nature,
Yes.
autopilot.
Yes. And
And
oh, go ahead.
go
I'm sorry.
ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. So I was just going to piggyback on that, like the food preservation, right? So you bring them into the canning and the
Mhm,
dehydrating and show them the rotation of your, long-term preps, your short-term preps. And that will segue into how we're going to cook and how we're going to prepare. And maybe we take it outside to the open fire or onto the grill or whatever. So there's just so many aspects of it. And I think today all these things are kind of like a lost art, right?
mhm,
I mean, there's been many things I had to teach myself. I remember waking up one day saying, like, how many skills do I have? Where am I, deficient? And trying to hone in on that stuff. And it becomes a passion, I mean, as you know. So I think it's important to find out what the kid is interested in. Do they like to cook? Are they more into camping? And start from there. Do they like the gardening? Teach them how to, you know, um, tend to a garden and how to save seeds. I mean, this goes into, science activities. And this is where I think with homeschooling, my
mhm,
girlfriend and I think about these things and where we can kind of, push the kids in certain directions and what we're learning from it.
mhm. And you can also, with talking about dehydrating and so forth, you can start with the things they like. So with dehydrating, they may not want to dehydrate vegetables, but they sure would like to learn how to make the dehydrated fruits or the fruit roll-ups or
Yes.
the applesauce in the fruit roll-ups. Start
Hmm.
them with things that they will really enjoy, and that will actually nurture that and encourage them to continue
Absolutely.
to build on it. You
Yeah.
don't always have to give them, here's a bag of peas or here's a bowl of peas. Something
Right.
they don't like, they're not going to want to do it. So
Right.
start with something they enjoy. And then when they do it, praise, 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 praise. Because the more
Absolutely.
you praise them, the more they're encouraged to continue to do it.
Right.
And then praise them some more. And they'll keep
Yes.
building on those skills, no matter what it is, not just
Abs-
dehydrating, anything.
yeah.
Um,
If you're
but you
lucky to
also,
have a freeze dryer, I was just going to say the candy.
I wish,
I
yes,
know, me
I
too.
wish.
I
Oh,
know.
I would love to make freeze-dried fruits and so forth. Oh, I would
Oh,
eat
yeah.
those
Absolutely.
all day. Um, Another thing too with the importance of preparedness, I think that both children and teens should know is to have the courage to take care of things themselves in case mom and dad are not home.
Yes.
If something happens when we're not around, they need to know the skills, and they need to
Uh,
know that
yes.
we might
Yes.
be at the store and you decided to stay home and play your game and the
Right.
power goes out. What are
Right.
you going to do? You
Right.
know?
Right.
Um, they need to have the ability and the self-confidence to be able to do those things.
Absolutely. Even my 5-year-old, he knows the phone number. He knows 911. And it's not even
Mhm,
just 911, it's how to address the 911 operator. You have to go
mhm,
through like fun drills, like make it kind of fun. You don't have to make it super scary. But I always ask questions like, what would you do if you walked in the room and, mommy had hit her head? Like, we're
mhm,
not going to run out to like random neighbors. We're going to, pick up the cell phone and we're going to do this. It's really important to teach the kids that. And when you kind of sit back and think like, oh, geez, like, do they know how to do that? It's important because it's going to give them the confidence and make them feel secure on they don't have to worry about. They know what to do. They know where certain items are in the house that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. And with the older, like how to fire up the generator, how to
Mm-hmm.
do this, like to know, don't open the refrigerator back and forth when the power's out, or the freezer. These are important things to know.
And with younger kids and with siblings, they can role play.
Absolutely.
Role playing is a great way to get that to stick in their brains
Yes.
and teach them how to stay calm in those situations.
Right.
I think that is probably one of the most important things. You were talking about how to communicate to the operator if they had to call.
Right. Right.
Communication is super, super important on staying, focused and calm and knowing. And I remember when I was younger, I had taken just a basic first aid class.
Yes.
And one of the things they taught us is when you have to tell somebody to call 911, you tell somebody specifically to call 911.
Right.
Point out a person and tell them you call 911. Because
Right.
if you just yell out, somebody call 911,
Yeah.
everyone is going to assume somebody else did it.
Right. They're going to be looking at each other to see who's calling. Like you need to.
Yes. Yep. And kids need to not be afraid to take charge. Teens need to
Yes.
not be afraid to take charge. Just because you're a child, when it comes down to something like that, if you're yelling out, you call 911, chances are good that that adult is going to listen to you
Absolutely.
because it's a
Absolutely.
serious situation.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things I try to teach my kids is not to don't be a victim, be the leader. Don't be
Mhm,
afraid to stand up and use that voice and
mhm,
direct people. Or use your voice and speak what's going on. One of the things my son takes karate, and one of the drills that they do is, if they're practicing how to get out of like a grip, and they'll scream, "You're not my mom or dad," and the instructor teaches them, run to a mother with children, not run
mhm,
to a random male, because chances are either a mother with children or a
mhm.
female is their safe bet. And to immediately, let them know this person's not my mother or father, because as a mother, we perk up really quick,
Oh,
especially if
yeah.
we get another child in trouble.
Yeah, usually the arm goes out, the kid goes behind you, and you go on a
Yes,
war path towards whoever is trying to hurt that child, no matter what child it is. They go
absolutely.
behind you, and you are the barrier.
Yes,
Like the first
exactly.
thing.
Yes,
Or if you're in the car, even if it's somebody else's kid and you have to slam on the brakes, the mom arm goes
the
out
mom bar. We go mom bar. Yeah,
because we're gonna stop it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
definitely.
Yeah,
And it
so it,
doesn't
it go ahead.
I was
No,
gonna
you go
say it
ahead.
doesn't have to be your kid, it could be an adult and the mom arm still goes out.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's important to let your kids know that they can be a force to be reckoned with, and not to be afraid. I will say my mom always instilled that in me, which is probably why I have no problem asserting myself in probably random situations where other people might be uncomfortable. But that's how I was raised, and that's how I want to raise my children.
Definitely. My mom taught me the same way, don't be afraid to
Yeah,
speak up. If you
I
don't
believe
agree,
it.
don't go along with it.
Yep.
Don't be
Absolutely.
afraid to stop anything either.
Right. Right.
Um, so we as adults have basic emergency kits at home.
Yes.
We probably have numerous emergency kits as adults.
Different places.
Correct. So if you were trying to teach a child, you know, what they should put in that emergency kit, what do you think they should start off with in their basic little emergency kit?
So I do have a little bag specifically for my son. And the first thing that when I created that bag is I asked him, what do you want to put into it? If
Mhm.
you had to leave immediately or there was an accident or so, what do you want? And literally the first thing was a stuffed animal, which is fine,
Mhm. Yeah.
put it in there, something that would make him feel happy and secure.
Mhm.
So then something that I do, especially living in New York, because we have 4 seasons, we rotate clothes,
Mhm.
because we don't want the winter clothes in the middle of the summer in the
Mhm.
bag. So kind of teaching him that. And then, of course, first aid was always very important. So, first aid items. And, we have his special band aids in there. We have his Paw Patrol band aids or whatever it is,
Mhm.
So, just kind of making it fun for him and letting him tell me what he thinks he needs. Because again, for a child, you want to make it fun for them. And, you know, that. Other than that, yeah, it's mostly first aid stuff and um, kid stuff because I have my own master bag and I'm usually never away from him. So,
Yeah. I think something that kids need help with as far as the emergency kits, which parents would almost have to do, is write down emergency contacts for
oh,
them.
yeah, absolutely. That's
Put those
absolutely amazing.
emergency contacts in the bag because maybe they're maybe it's not a SHTF, but
Right.
they're lost, but they just happen to have their bag. So an adult would need to know how to get a hold of that, as well as any illnesses that they might have that may need
Yes.
attention.
That's a great point. Yes.
I would also suggest allergies, of course, just in
Yeah.
case. And something that the kids may not necessarily use or the teens may not necessarily use, but will probably come in handy often is like some hard candies
Yes.
because a lot of and water, of course, those are the
Yeah.
two things that would help really a good portion of the medical type emergencies they may come across of where they can help and help immediately.
Right. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
You just have to tell them not to eat all the candy, you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah, and absolutely, the context because, even if they had to, like, run to a neighbor and they grab their
Mhm,
bag, now maybe they don't need the items in their bag, but they know it's an emergency, I'm gonna run to the neighbor, and then the
mhm.
neighbor finds that, so that's so important
Yeah,
because
definitely phone numbers.
they're not gonna read everything, so, you know.
Oh, no, not at all. I would also try to get your kids at a young age. This has definitely gone out the window, especially us as adults now. But when we were kids, we didn't have our phone books with us all the
Mhm.
time. We had
Yeah,
to memorize
yeah,
everything.
everything.
So I would suggest with kids and teens to at least do your best to memorize the most important contact phone numbers, whether
Yep,
it be mom, dad, sibling, neighbor,
yeah,
grandma, grandpa, whoever, if you needed help right away and had to call, that's the phone number that you should memorize.
yes,
Or if you get stuck somewhere without your bag, someone can be like, "Who can I call?" And you can give them that phone number and a name, also their
y
address. They should also
yes,
memorize their address. I see too many kids that don't know even their parents name. What's your mom's name? Mom. What's your
yeah,
dad's name? Dad.
dad,
So they should know at least first name and phone
right,
number of how to get a hold of them and their
yeah,
address,
yes,
bare
and
minimum.
right, and I wanna say that my son had just turned 4 when he knew um, his mom, my phone number. Obviously, he knew my first name and, the address of where he didn't always get the zip code, but he had the name of the street and the town and the state. And
Mhm,
he fully understood that comment. I mean, fully understood that at like 4 years old. So I don't
mhm,
think really there is nothing, too young. And my phone number is very easy to kind of like sing song and we kind of just said the number out and like it was to a rhythm and he has it, he almost sings it to me. So,
mhm.
just the easy way of doing it, and again, making it fun and just while you're driving in the car. I mean, I drive a lot, so it's sometimes I'm like, wow, like this is time to have these conversations and work on those things and kids want to, especially little ones, they want to learn, they absorb everything at that age. So it's a lot easier.
Yep. Yep. They've got great memories. The younger they are, the
Mhm.
better the memories there are.
Y Exactly, and they're like little sponges, so, get that stuff into them early.
Mhm. Something else too that you may want to do, this is more for the teens. Well, I guess kids could use it too. There are a lot of, especially if they watch YouTube and TikToks and so forth, there are a lot of
Yeah.
hand gestures that they can use to tell somebody that they are in
Yes.
trouble without
Yes.
actually bringing attention to themselves from whoever they're with that
Right.
they're in trouble with.
Right.
So I would also teach those kids and those teens those
Right.
hand gestures.
Especially with all the trafficking going on. I mean, God forbid,
Yes.
you know, you see that all the time, and these gestures really do save countless lives. You know,
Hmm.
so absolutely, especially if teen, girl or boy, but absolutely.
Yeah.
What
It's
what
hard. But go ahead.
no, one of the other things I was going to say is my son's a little young, but a paper map of your area,
Hmm.
and make sure your child older is proficient in reading a map because, right, we all have, our directions on our phones, and it just,
Hmm.
you don't even have to understand.
Oh, I lost your volume. Nope. I lost you again. It says you're muted now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That was weird.
Give me 1 second. You go ahead. Give me 1 second.
Okay. So going on to teaching kids proficiency with map reading, that's something that you can do with your children now. When you go on a road trip or even just go to the store, if you can get a hold of a map, which you can go to your local visitor center or a touristy area, wherever you are, if you have a touristy area, go get yourself a local map. And even though you know the way to get somewhere, hand that map to your child or your teen and tell them, okay, I need you to give me directions. That's how you can really start teaching them those skills of how to read a map and how to follow directions and give directions, and not freak out while they're giving directions. Because if you first hand them a piece of paper and you're like, hey, here we are, here's how we have to get, they're going to be like, well, I don't know how to do that. They're going to get a little bit of anxiety. But the more that you do it, where they can match up, they learn that they can match up the street name on the map to the street name that they're seeing, they will start to learn, okay, the next street you're going to take a left, or, as they get better, 2 streets down, you're going to take a left. You can start this
Right.
now, even though, like I said, and if they tell you to take a wrong turn, guess what? Take that wrong turn and let them
Yes.
fix it. Let them tell you how
Absolutely.
to get you out of where you are and back on track.
Right.
It's such a simple way to get kids to start learning these skills without them realizing really what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it may help them in the future. Chances are good it will help them in the future.
I also
Um,
think that just made me think about, especially like our teens that are driving, what to do when you feel like somebody's following you. Do you
mhm,
drive to your house? You know, no, you don't drive to your house. You don't leave that person. You know, to look if you're getting pulled over, don't assume that, if you're in the middle of nowhere that a cop is pulling you over. You can call 911 before you pull over to make sure that it is someone. This stuff happens. So, these conversations are really important. My parents were law enforcement, so like it was drilled into me at an early age. I knew to carry my keys with like the key out, like to stab someone. So like these things are important. When you're walking out to your car, look around, look under the car, look in the back seat before you get in the vehicle. These are things that are important, just to prepare for, to avoid possible danger.
mhm. Well, Fang, I did get your question. I'm going to go to the questions at the end of
Sure.
the stream because I just want to let him know he wasn't sure if I got it or not. I'll get to it at the end. But you were talking about people following you. Another thing, a lot of I think teens don't realize is, and you started to touch on this with, if you're in the middle of nowhere and a police officer is trying to pull you over and there are no lights, you are by yourself. You have the right to drive to a lit public area.
Yes.
I'm not saying speed off and leave the cop. That's not the way to
No.
do it.
No.
But you do have the right. And when they ask you why you did not pull over, you are honest with them and you tell them, I did not feel safe in that location. I wanted to go to a public area with lights.
Right.
And they will understand because you are a teen or even adults. My
Oh yeah.
husband and I have done this to where we have pulled in the middle of the night to a lit area because you don't know if they really
No,
are a police officer or
no,
not. And
no.
you don't have to be paranoid of every time they pull you over. Just know that they understand if you are young or if you are by yourself, you are a female by yourself, if you want to keep going, to go
Right.
to a public area, go to a grocery store, that's open 24/7 to where there are people and
Yes.
let them know I did not feel safe. I was not sure if you were a real police officer. And I
Right.
wanted to make sure that I was in a public area. They will understand.
Right.
They're not going to hold that against you.
No,
Um,
and you can call 911 dispatch to let them
mhm,
know, especially if you have a little bit of a drive,
mhm,
and they can
yes.
actually let that officer know what's going on.
Mhm,
So, that's, don't feel like you're breaking the law. And if you feel uncomfortable, you know, um, something that happened to me recently, and I spoke to my daughter about this, was that I was driving and I was in an area that I didn't know. I was with my son, and I came out of the gas station holding his hand, and it was, I had parked all the way to the left, and it was like I was all of a sudden pinned between two very high standing trucks.
mm,
And I did not feel comfortable going in between the truck. And then someone had asked me to use my phone. So immediately I'm like, I'm being distracted now. I have my son, like, I don't know what's going on. And I kind of like disregarded the person, but I set off my car alarm purposely,
mhm,
like I pretended like I didn't know what I was doing, and I accidentally, and one of the cars pulled away immediately. And I don't know if something happened, but I was not gonna put myself in that situation where something could, because I'm so short that I would have been lost in between the 2 cars, and someone could have just grabbed me or grabbed my son and threw us in the car, and nobody would have known. And this
mhm,
was broad daylight. So, these little things are important to, especially the teens, to, bring up to them and have them think ahead of what potentially could happen and how to
mhm.
avoid those things.
Yep. I think the other thing that teens should know with if they are being followed is don't go straight home.
Yes.
And
Right.
what I used to, what I would always do, not that I was followed a lot, but in the back of my mind, if I were to ever be followed, what I was going to do is first of all take um, basically 4 lefts or 4 rights to confirm I was being followed.
Being followed. Yes.
If you go in a complete circle and that person is also going in a complete circle,
Yes.
chances are good you're being followed.
Yes.
Then once I would confirm that, this did happen once, but once I did confirm that, I drove and went straight towards the local police station.
Yes.
And once I got there, they kept going.
Right.
Or you can also call law enforcement then, like you were saying, if you feel like you're not safe pulling over, you can also call them if you think you're being followed. Call them and be like,
Right.
hey, I'm on this street. And you have to, this is where communication is important. This
Right.
is the direction I'm going. This is what I'm driving. This is the street that I'm on. I am pretty sure this car is following me. Here's why, and here's what the car looks like.
Right. Right.
And chances are that operator is going to ask you, they're going to keep talking to you. Where are you now? Where are you now? We have law enforcement coming. Did you turn? Did you not turn? And they will guide you too. They will give you directions
Yes.
on how to get to them as well. If you don't have a police officer close enough to you, they'll give you
Right.
directions to get to them.
Yes. Yeah.
So don't be afraid to call that law enforcement number, or make sure you also have the non-emergency police number in your phone.
Right. Right.
You should also have an ICE emergency in your phone if you're a
Right.
teen or
Yes.
a child. Both of them,
Yes.
if they have a phone, should have an ICE emergency, which is in case of emergency.
Yes.
And that's one of the first things that a paramedic or police officer or somebody is going to do if they find your child and that child has a cell phone. The first
Yes.
thing they're going to do is look for a, a label that says mom, dad, or ICE.
Right. Right. And also something that I learned too, if you have an iPhone, on the iPhone, you could set up your emergency contacts in there, obviously,
Mhm.
but there's actually a tab that if you take the iPhone and click it 5 times on the right hand side, hold on, it will actually call your emergency contacts.
Mhm. And it'll set off a warning. So
Yes,
don't think you
exactly.
could just hit it and it will automatically do that. It will set off a tone, and it would be like, hey, you just did this. If you
Right.
don't basically say you didn't mean to within this many seconds, then it will send it. So it's
Yes,
not an automatic. Don't think you'll push it if it's just in your bag.
absolutely. Right. Exactly.
How would you have a kid learn how to prepare for a natural disaster?
I think it's important to obviously base it on your area, right? So,
Mhm,
for me, being in New York, we have snowstorms.
mhm,
The snowstorms is key. So that's what you would start with. I found to get my son interested in that stuff, we started watching videos on weather and teaching about different parts of the country. And, here we have snow and here they have hurricanes. And then had that conversation. So it's all educational anyway, but then you tailor it towards your specific area and start with that. Like, I'm not going to talk about earthquakes because I'm not in an area that typically has them. Knock on wood. Um, but yes, so you would go with that and to prepare what is it that you need. Do you
mhm,
know where your shovel is? Do you have warm blankets? Do you know how to start a generator? Do you know
mhm,
um, all the things that you need. What do you need? And you can make a
mhm.
game of it. Like I asked my son, what do you need? And it's a
Yeah.
lot of silly conversation for a little one, but that's how they get interested. If you make it all doom and gloom and scary, he's gonna be like, no, I'm good.
Mhm.
And then the older ones, it's like, hey, I know during the pandemic, whatever, I was with my daughter and I'm like, hey, you need to have food on hand. You need to have this. You need to have, like, do you know how to get from where she lives up in Albany, which is about an hour and a half from me? Do you know how to get to my house on the back roads? Like,
Mhm.
if you would need to avoid the highway, do you know how? Okay, you don't know. So print them out, have them in your glove box. So these are things that are important. You got
Yeah.
to tailor it to the age.
And the other thing with you watching weather with your children to kind of get them aware of what could happen in that
Right,
situation, if it does happen, or because like where I live, I'm in a hurricane area, and of course, you
right,
never know when a hurricane's going to hit or how bad it's
sure,
actually really going to be until it does hit,
right,
because the news likes to hype things up.
right.
Those are things that we prepare in advance for. Same thing with snowstorms, same thing with
Yes,
severe, lightning, so forth. Those are things we prepare for ahead of time. And
absolutely.
during that preparation window with those kids or teens, um, not only do you really go through, you can have them go get those things. Okay, well, we watched this movie. What
Mm,
happened in the movie? Oh my gosh, their lights went out. Well, what would we do if our lights went out here? What could we
absolutely.
use? And have them start learning how to critically think. Okay, I have candles. I have flashlights. Okay, well, gosh, this flashlight isn't working. Why couldn't it be working? Oh, you
Right,
know what? We need batteries,
yes,
or this candle's not going to do any good if we don't have a lighter. Um,
right,
you know, for the young children, that's kinda how you start them. You have them start getting those things, that
right,
go get the blankets. What blanket do you think will keep you warm?
right.
Um,
Like a scavenger hunt almost, and
exactly, exactly.
you really could do it like that and make it fun, and believe me, kids love to play games like that, and,
Mhm,
it just gets them thinking, and I will tell you, that is where you will find holes in your prep when you
yeah,
realize, like, "Oh,
mhm,
geez, maybe I forgot I didn't have that," or, "Oh, I need to stock up on that," and that it's useful for the adults as well, because as much as we all try, nobody's perfect here, so
mhm. And you can adapt that with the teens too, as far as
yes,
obviously the teens aren't so much going to go on a scavenger hunt,
right,
but take your teen to the grocery store and be like, "Okay, if our power goes out for this long, say
right,
5 days, a week, what do we need in the house?"
yes,
And of course, kids, they automatically will go to the frozen pizza section. Well, gosh, if the freezer's not working or we can't cook them in the oven, how is
yes,
that going to work?
yes,
And make them start using their thought process of,
yes,
oh shoot, you're right.
yeah,
Or if they follow the masses of, we need 20 loaves of bread. Well, are you eating that many sandwiches? Because I'm surely not.
no, no,
Get them to start thinking that way. Let them do the shopping to
right.
some extent,
Yeah,
and let them learn what really needs to be done and what
right,
doesn't.
right.
Um, the biggest thing that teens need to know is, and I'm saying this in case any teens watch, is non-perishable foods, which means
Yes.
it is not going to spoil if it's not in the fridge or freezer.
Right.
If you buy canned goods or ravioli or whatever, you need to make sure you have a can opener that is
I
not
was
electric.
and have multiple can openers because
Mhm.
they can break. They can break.
Yep, yep, and make sure you have
They're
a
not
way.
expensive.
Mhm. And make sure you have a way to cook them on an open fire because some people's pots and pans cannot go on an open fire. So
Yes.
even if you have to go to Goodwill and buy a $2 pan or
Yes.
a saucepan or a frying pan to
Yep.
keep that just in case you have to cook on an open fire because your power went out for whatever reason.
Absolutely.
Um, Another thing too is if you're in a snow prone area, this is something we actually had to do when I was younger, and our power went out because of a blizzard, and we were worried about losing all our food in the fridge. And then we were like, wait a minute, we literally have a natural fridge outside. Move that stuff
Yeah.
outside, move it
Ab
into the snow. It will keep it cold and or frozen
Yep.
if you just move it. But
Right.
before you have to do that, it will stay in your fridge for a few days as long as you don't keep opening that fridge door. Keep it shut.
Opening and closing. Right. Right.
And then
And
cook the things that will go bad first.
right. Right. I think also another way to make it fun and to kind of segue is, with a natural disaster and say you're trapped in your house, like, how are you going to entertain yourself? Because these kids are glued to the phones and the
Mhm,
iPads, and believe me, I try not to, but sometimes, he's before I even turn around, he's on YouTube. He's on my
mhm.
YouTube. I'm like, whoa, wait, what are you looking at? So, like what, do you play cards? Do you have coloring books? Do you have board games? These are things, and that's kind of like a more of a fun thing to keep their interest. Like, what would you do? Okay, we're turning off all the electric here. Like, what is it that
Yep,
you don't have your, PlayStation or whatever, Xbox, I don't know what they play anymore, but,
yeah.
so that's important too, and that is an aspect of it, of everything,
Yep.
is how you entertain yourself.
Let them fill up the bathtubs too with water so they can flush the toilets. Let them do
Absolutely.
that. Let
Mhm.
them fill the empty milk jugs or water containers with water so that you have water to cook with or wash your
Yes,
hands with.
yes.
Um, let them do these things, and those are things that will become muscle memory.
Right. And you made a good point earlier when we spoke before the show was, know where your water source is. Now, I'm in the
Mhm,
Catskills and I have water like literally spewing out of the mountain next to me. So I don't personally like worry so much about water, but it's a big problem for most of the country. Where are you, if your faucet's not turning on, where are you getting your water from?
mhm, mhm.
And do you know if the water's clean? Just because the water's coming out of a mountain here doesn't mean I should just drink it right now. What would you do? Do you
Mhm.
have ways to clean it? Do you have ways to filter it? Like, these are important things because a lot of people think, oh, well, it's beautiful, it's pristine out here. I could just drink it out of a lake. You might end up very sick,
Mhm.
you know?
And
So,
um, another thing that teens know that rivers have water, but they don't realize they shouldn't drink downstream.
right,
That's a big
right.
thing. Don't drink your water from downstream. You need to go upstream to gather your water.
Yes,
Um, you need to have a way to collect your water,
yes,
and you need to have a way to purify your water. And I
yep,
think the easiest way to purify water, if you're getting it from a stream and it's just a natural thing, not
right,
anything scary, out there, um, they need to they need to know that boiling the water is probably the easiest way, as long as they know how to make fire. And
right.
that's a big thing with camping. You need to teach them. You need to get dry wood, not wet wood. You need
Wet
to
wood,
start with kindling, not just
yes.
throw a log on there and think you're going to hold a lighter on it and start it.
And what
If
type of wood burns best,
Mhm,
and like the bark is excellent, to use as like a starter. So those are really important things. You're going to throw pine on there, you're not going to get very far, you know.
yeah. Also, if they don't have a lighter, because most children will not have lighters, and most
Hmm.
children will not have lighters in their bags, their emergency bags, give them a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
They're not just to fry ants. You know, teach them how to use it because that's a
Yeah.
great way for kids to have the ability to start a fire if they have to,
Right.
but
Right.
still being safe about. having this item with them.
Right. Yeah, and it's a fun game. Like, how many ways can you start a fire? And
Hmm.
show them the different tools that there are, and those are items that are safe to keep in a child's bag.
Yep.
Unless you don't want them running into the forest practicing on their own, but
Yep. Or teach them how to do the Vaseline and cotton balls. That's a safe way for kids
yes,
too to
yep,
carry things that will burn quickly, will start fires, will
mhm,
start on fire quickly,
yes,
that they can carry in their bag and not get in trouble. And they
right,
would probably actually have fun getting the goopy stuff on the cotton balls. Let them do
right,
that. You
yeah,
know, it's a fun way to get them prepared and then teach them how to use them.
right, right, absolutely.
Let's see. I wrote notes, you guys, because otherwise I go off track.
Let's see.
We talked about situational awareness. Oh, another thing I want to bring up too, you had talked about how a lot of teens and kids are on their phones often, and a
Mhm,
lot of them don't think that to call somebody. But what I have seen to
mhm,
prevent people from following or so forth, I've seen this on videos and it seems to work very well, is if they, because they're all on social media, all these
yes,
kids and teens have social media, start your live stream
right,
and make sure you get that person in your live stream. And if
yes,
you have to talk really, really loud enough for that person to hear you, be like, "Hey, you guys, I'm going live because this creep back here is following
yes,
me."
yes,
They're going to be like, "Oh my goodness, I
right,
have now just been seen with who knows how many people. I'm
right,
leaving. I'm
yes.
out of here."
And
So,
even state where you are, if you're comfortable doing that, if you feel really, and
yep.
even something we spoke about last week on when I said I pretended like I was on a phone call with my
Hmm.
husband, who I said was a police officer, who
Hmm.
he's not a police officer, but I made it really loud and I made it aware, and it really distracted the person that I thought could potentially be, dangerous. And
Hmm.
by doing that, you are taking a potential bad situation and diffusing it and not letting it
Hmm.
escalate. And that's important because it's not always about having some sort of weapon on you and using it, right? We want to avoid that. That's like
Hmm.
the last stop on the train. So teaching your kid to have that critical thinking and
Hmm.
not be afraid to go with their gut and not be afraid to either embarrass themselves or
Hmm.
make others uncomfortable. Like, it's important to do that, and I think it's something that's taught.
Yeah. Kids and teens coming out of stores too. Don't be afraid to go back in that store. Don't
Absolutely
be
not.
afraid to turn around. Just act like if you're afraid to look like you're looking stupid or looking like you're naive, just be like, "Oh crap, I forgot to get milk," and go back in that store.
Hmm.
Don't go to your car if you feel like something is wrong, trust your instincts. She talked about instincts. Trust your instincts. Even as children,
Yes,
trust your instincts. Kids know when something is wrong. Teens know
absolutely.
when something is wrong. And if they feel like something is wrong, they need to express it to an adult if it's a child, or if
Yes,
it's a teen and there's not an adult around, you need to turn around and go find somebody. Go
right,
back in the store where you're safe. And there's lots of times you can go to a manager or go to a store clerk and tell them, "I just have a really bad feeling. Something is not right. Could you please walk me to my car or could you please stay here with
absolutely,
me until that car leaves?" And they
absolutely.
probably will. Chances are good they will. I can't imagine anyone would be like, "Nah, forget it. Get out of here." It's
Yes,
just not going to happen.
yes,
Um, so use those resources that you have around you, no matter where you are, to your advantage.
absolutely.
Even if you go in like Catskills did, she pretended like she was on the phone with, her husband was coming that was a police officer. You can also go in and act like you're talking to the clerk and pointing at something outside, but you could be talking about something different. "Oh, hey, dude, look at that car." But the person outside can't hear what you're saying. They just see you
Wait,
pointing in the
pointing.
direction.
Yes,
Okay. So learn how to do that. Learn those skills. And I hate to say this, but those are actually skills teens can kind of practice, even though it,
yeah,
it sounds kind of mean to do to somebody who's probably not doing anything. But
right,
if they seem like whoever you're pointing at seems like, "Oh my gosh, why are they talking about me?" You're doing the right thing. Like
right,
you're practicing your skills, that you're doing it in a believable manner to
right,
whoever cannot hear
right. And parents, talk to your children like, "Hey, if you were in this scenario, what would you do?"
you. Hmm.
I think the next step is best what you said is actually physically doing those things, but you can start with the conversations. I was going to a hotel by myself, traveling up and down the East Coast, and I was going into a hotel at night. I booked it online. I pull up, and there's just single men just flooding everywhere, like a random, like it was like, like a Days Inn, like I don't know, it was a nice hotel, but maybe it was a Hilton. I have no idea, but there was just so many men everywhere. I'm like, this is very strange. Like, and some were drinking, and I'm like, what is going on here? So I pull up, I check in, and the clerk says you could park wherever, and there was no parking, and the only place to park was all the way around back. And I said to myself, absolutely not. I'm not
Mhm.
getting out of this vehicle behind a hotel with random single men all over the place. And I pulled up to the front, and I literally parked in it said like the staffing parking lot. And I went up
Mhm.
to the hotel manager, and I said, listen, I'm afraid to like park way back there. I'm like, what's going on? I
Mhm.
guess there was a fire in the area, and they had brought in all different crews from all over. So that's what it was, because it was just very bizarre. And I said, I'm parked in the staffing. Is that okay? I don't want my car towed. And he's like, it's absolutely fine. And I understand
Mhm.
why you feel that way. And he's like, I'll even take it a step further and walk you to your room.
Mhm.
And I felt better, because who knows what could happen? You just don't know.
Yeah,
And,
that's definitely where situational awareness comes to.
absolutely. And it's important, again, to, really, especially the older, I guess, and not just the older kids, the younger ones too, they can understand, they definitely,
Mhm.
my son, sometimes I forget he's 5 with some of the things he says to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know.
Mhm.
And if he sees strange people, he's like, that person's weird. I'm like, yeah, they're weird. Stay away. Let's keep it
Mhm.
moving. Like he knows. And when he tells me, I acknowledge his feelings. Yeah, they're weird. There's weird people out there. We don't want to deal with that. So we,
Mhm.
keep moving.
Something I would also say too, this is kind of, it just reminded me, it's not on the same topic, but um, kids and teens um, need to be aware that 90% of the people that contact them through social media are not who they
Oh,
say
yeah.
they are.
Yes.
Too many kids are trusting, they're putting too much information out there, and the internet is a way to gather tons of information about people. Even if you're not saying it, if you give just enough information, people can track you down. They will
Yes.
pretend to be your age, they will pretend to be your gender, your best friend. They will convince you that they can rescue you from whatever you want to be rescued from, and meet them here, meet them there. Um,
Yes.
don't go with these people. Don't meet these people. If you have kids, teens, adults, if you
Right.
have people acting strange like that to where they're trying to convince you that they're safe, go with them, meet them somewhere, don't tell anyone. The first thing you should be doing is telling somebody,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
because
And
I
keep
can make myself anybody online. I could make myself a 4-year-old little boy online
right.
with other people's pictures and videos. So
Anything.
you never know. You never ever ever know
Yes.
who you're actually talking to.
Right. Yeah.
And
No,
that's
I
how,
mean,
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say it even goes for us. I mean, I've had some very strange situations where I had to,
Yeah. I was
block
yeah.
somebody or
Did
what have
it.
you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just don't be afraid. And if you do by chance, say you decide to FaceTime somebody, or you decide to get on video with somebody, and it's not who they say they were, and they
Right.
do things that freak you out, that are inappropriate, you
Yes.
also need to tell somebody. Don't be afraid to tell an adult. You are not going to get in trouble by bringing attention to what happened, what somebody tried to do to
Right.
you through the internet.
Right. Right.
Contact somebody. Uh, if you can, if you're a teen, if you can remember, I probably wouldn't remember, but if you can remember, take a screenshot, do a
Yes.
screen record so that you
Yes.
have their face. So when the authorities do get involved, you have a face to give to the authorities so that they can track them down and stop this person from
Right.
doing whatever they're doing.
Right.
It
Right.
just
And
popped into my head.
no, no, you're absolutely right. And be a leader for your friends. There's,
Mhm.
your story, and maybe it didn't happen to you, and it's happening to your girlfriend. Like, speak up. We kind of touched on this last week with some of we were sharing back and forth. But, make sure you ensure your friends. This is an important thing. Not everybody's going to be strong enough to stand up and have a voice or be assertive. Like, be that person for somebody else. And
Mhm.
hopefully you can help them, and hopefully they'll learn and grow, and maybe they'll help somebody else. It just kind of keep it moving. Because there's a lot of weirdos out there, and we know that.
Yeah. And if you're a teen and you're old enough to where you're going to parties with or without your parents' permission,
Yeah.
um, first of all, don't be afraid to say no.
Yeah.
Who cares what they think about you? Don't be afraid to say no, no matter what the circumstances. If you don't think it's okay, no means no, no matter what it is.
Right. Right.
Secondly, if you are going to go out drinking, you need to go with a buddy system.
Yeah. And a plan.
Even if your parents don't know, I know there are teens out there that are going to watch this that go
Of
out
course.
drinking without their parents knowing. Go with a friend and talk to each other about rules or safety phrases if you don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable where they can come
Yeah.
rescue you. Even as
Yeah.
adults, when I
Yeah.
was younger and I'd go to a club with my girlfriend, we had certain words that they would be like, "Oh, guess what? Gosh, I just got a phone call from home. We've got to go."
Yeah. Yes.
We
Yeah.
rescue each other even as adults. Um,
Absolutely.
so do that with your buddy system. Also, don't let anyone bring you a drink. Don't leave your drink
Mhm.
unattended. And this goes not
Yeah.
just for at people's houses, this also goes for adults in bars, which most adults know this. Um,
Yes.
but it takes a split second
Second.
for
Yes.
for somebody to put something in your drink
Yes.
that will knock you unconscious, and
They could do
there's nothing
terrible
you can
things.
do.
Yes. I've
Mhm.
been I was with a girlfriend once, and we looked and we were like, "Where'd our drink go?" And some guy goes, "Oh, I don't know. I think they threw them out here. We bought you drinks." I'm like,
Mm-mm.
"Absolutely not." I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know what the plan was or wasn't, but it wasn't happening. You're
Mm-mm.
not gonna, yeah, you definitely aren't gonna. And also, we had spoken on the Roaming Peppers stream afterwards. I told you the story where my daughter took an Uber, my oldest, and in New
Yep.
York City, and the gentleman said, "Oh, you're pretty," and turned around and was like, "Oh, smell this perfume," and like leaned back to stick it in her face. And she literally was in the middle of Times Square and opened the Uber door and like jumped out of a moving vehicle because she had the wherewithal to know, like, I don't want to sniff something. I mean, it could knock her out. She knew that right away. And then she reported him to Uber. But it's not just the drinks, it's smelling stuff. Why would this
Yep.
guy be telling her to smell a perfume? He's the Uber driver after he told her she was pretty,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
It's exactly that. It's drinks. It's things that you can inhale. Um, some people, I hate to touch on this, but there are some people out there that lace weed to do the same thing as well. So if you are
right.
a teenage pot smoker, you need to be
Yes.
careful where you are getting your weed from,
Yeah.
because there are people that will lace it to affect you in a way where they can take advantage of you.
Yeah. Yep.
So you have to be aware, and I'm hoping that you don't do drugs. Say no to drugs.
Right.
Um, but if you do, you need to be aware that there are
Yeah.
drugs out there that can be put in
Yeah.
weed
Yeah.
that can make it to where you are easily taken advantage of, or
Or killed.
yeah, yeah, kidnapped, killed, tortured,
Yeah. Yeah.
locked up in a basement for years. It does happen. It has happened,
Yeah.
and there are ways. You just have to be aware of your surroundings, and not be afraid to stand your ground, have your rules, go with a buddy system so that you guys are always looking out for each other,
Yes.
and just be very, very careful. Not everyone is your friend, even if they buy you things or they bring you free stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
They give you compliments. They're not your friend. Chances are good, if you don't know them and they're doing that, they have an ulterior motive of
Yeah.
why they are doing those things to you,
Right.
and
Right.
you need to walk away. You need to
Yeah.
walk away.
And I
Um,
think just having this preparedness conversation early on and as age appropriate as it goes along, that is what's gonna give those children the confidence to know to stand up for themselves and do those things.
mhm,
Because when you feel prepared, right, you're like, I can kind of take it on, because you're not left in a situation, when things went crazy in 2020 and people couldn't get basic items, it's like I was sitting pretty because I was prepared. So
mhm.
all of a sudden watching everyone scramble online and I'm like, I'm good, So that gives you the confidence, and it's a cool thing. It's good to feel like that. it's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. Not at all. Um, so you have kids out there and teens that don't have jobs, don't have money.
Hmm.
What are some things that they can do in order to prepare for um, disasters in general?
I mean, I think one of the things that for a younger child, that a parent who may be on a fixed income, and I mean, listen, everyone right now is feeling inflation and doesn't have all this extra money laying around to do this stuff. One of the things, there's so many online tools that you can use that are actually aimed towards preparedness. Games that you can play with the kids online on different, whatever. You could just Google it and it's there. Like scavenger hunt games, like what would you do in case of this? What would you grab? So that's something for younger ones. You had brought up like Goodwill. But Goodwill is excellent for all sorts of stuff. Goodwill, and then obviously you got like Craigslist and things like. But you got to be careful with Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Obviously, you got to source these things safely, but that's a good way to get things with very limited budget. The other thing is just
Hmm.
learning skills and going through drills. If you're a teen and you could start your own preparedness group. There's actually
Hmm.
national organizations for teens, almost like Girl Scouts. So you could do like a neighborhood one, and get your friends together, and you guys could each be a point person for a certain thing. So there's a lot of things you can do in the preparedness field that doesn't mean you're going out and you're getting the latest and greatest gadget. Because a lot of times I think people assume preparedness has to do with buying like, thousands of dollars of, freeze dried food, and it's
Hmm.
expensive.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be that. There's so much more. In fact, I personally think, as even though I do have a lot of that stuff, I personally think skills and being mentally prepared are right up there with it, if not more sometimes.
Hmm. And we touched on some of those skills already, as far as like the camping
Yep.
and fire starting, water purification,
Yeah.
outdoor cooking. Some other skills that kids can start learning at a young age is fishing,
Fishing. Oh, yeah. Hunting.
hunting, um, snaring, how to snare.
Mhm.
These are things you can teach children at a very, very young age. And then, of course, how to dress these animals, which is something I've never learned.
Yeah.
That's just me. But it is something that
Yeah.
you can teach children. And then you also need to teach them, even if you're like I'm in South Carolina, we don't have cold weather here, but you should still have them prepared for cold weather camping. Same thing if
Absolutely.
you're in a cold area, teach them, how to survive in the heat.
In the
Um,
heat.
so they're cross trained in case you are maybe on vacation and something happens, or you're visiting somebody
Right.
out of state and something happens.
Yes.
Um, Another thing that you can teach kids, and actually my stepson does this, is learning this, and he is a teen, is knot tying.
Yes.
Give them some paracord and teach them how to tie knots.
Right. And different types of knots and what they're for.
Yep. And the paracord, the survival bracelets, teach them
Yes.
these things.
Yes.
It's a craft to them, but it's something that it's skills you're actually teaching them when they get older.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say, like, I fish, but I realized 2 years ago I never got a fish. I've never done it. And my uncle's an avid fisherman, and I was like, "You need to teach me how to gut a fish. I've never done one." So he
mhm,
did, because I realized, I never did that. I never had a need to do it. So when did it
yeah,
form me? Well, there might be a day I need to, how to properly do it and fillet it.
mhm. And actually, Survival Living, I don't know if you're subscribed to him, but he just
Yes,
had a
he's
video
also.
recently with the
Oh yeah,
snake. Did you see that?
I did, and I flung right by it. But yes, I did see it. Yes, I
I
saw him
I
pull the
watched
skin
it.
off it. He pulled the skin
Yes,
right off of it. Yes.
yes, he did. It was a really good video. I did
Yeah,
do
he's
a comment.
awesome.
I was like, "That was gross, but thank you for sharing."
Yeah,
But I did watch it because those are things that, we may need to learn. And
yeah,
so if you want to know how to dress a snake, you guys, to eat,
yeah,
Survival Living has a great video on. It's a short video. I want to say it's like 5 or 6 minutes long,
yeah.
but it was a
It's not
great
long.
video. Very very detailed, but very
Yeah,
gory. I will warn you
yeah,
now.
yeah,
But those are all things that kids, teens can learn at a young age,
yes.
and also
That.
how to make cordage
Oh yeah,
from. natural stuff
Right.
in the
Right.
woods and so forth. Um,
Absolutely.
but
The I
do
just
that.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about knowing something that doesn't cost any money, and something that I did is learning learning, like, the different types of, like, pests that are in your area, like, the different
Hmm.
types that in the Catskills, we have a lot of spiders. What
Hmm.
spiders are good, what spiders aren't, what snakes are good, what snakes aren't, and knowing and being able to recognize those, and that's something that, a child will, be interested in, because most children are interested in animals.
Shelter building.
Yes.
How many clubhouses did we build as kids? You don't
Right.
see kids doing it anymore, but
No,
that's something that,
they're doing it online with, like, whatever they do.
yeah, the Minecraft and so forth.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not going to save them.
No.
Um,
No.
but those are things that you can teach them at a young age and
Yeah,
make it fun. Make
yeah.
a clubhouse. That's what we used to call them, clubhouses.
Clubhouses, and
Um,
you know what? And get them outside, just get them outside. I mean, I can't stress enough how important it is to just let them go and, explore and just build things and use their mind. I mean, that's so important. And if you can hone that into preparedness, and make it fun and educational, it's a win-win all around.
and if you can't, let's say that you're one of those kids that you have parents that think everything is going to go back to how it was. Oh, prices are going to come back down, food's going to be back in.
Okay.
Not having that support from their parents, but they as teens or kids see what is going on.
Yes.
um, there are ways for them to prepare in a way to where it's not alarming to the parents or
Right.
not upsetting the parents.
Right.
And when you're a teen, say you're a teen and you want to start stocking or storing things, there are things you can stock and store and hide in plain sight that you're stocking and storing, like your
Right.
candles, your paracord, your extra
Yeah.
batteries. Those are all hide in plain sight type of things. Flashlights, hide in
Right.
plain sight type of things.
Right.
Um, but you can also try to sit down and talk to them and say, look, we live in, say, Colorado and we get snowstorms. I would like to learn how to prepare myself. Could you please help me? And
Right.
they may be willing to help you prepare that way. Just don't
Right.
go and say, I'm preparing for the apocalypse, because then they're going to
Right.
look at you like you're crazy.
Right.
But
Right.
just sit down and tell them you want to learn these things because of where you live and what you've lived through or what you've heard has happened in your area, and open up that communication. If parents do not want to support you still, there are ways for you to learn on your own. It's not just YouTube and TikToks and Instagrams, which they are there, but you can also go to the library and you can check out books on prepping, survival, foraging, food preservation, uh, all of those things. Another good resource, you guys, this is for kids and for teens, is talk to your people who have had to be in a survival type situation. Your policemen, your prior service, your EMTs, your fire department, your firemen. Ask them, hey, I kind of was thinking, I don't know who else to talk to. If something like this were to happen, what would you suggest I do? Learn skills from them, that they have got an abundance of skills that they would probably appreciate you reaching out to them and really asking them how to survive certain things. Magazines out there, of course, watch
I
YouTube videos. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, for the kids that either A, their parents aren't on board, or maybe their friends think they're weird, right? Because
9:06 p.m.
they're
9:06
I
p.m.
don't I don't know what that is. Anyway.
Hey, Kat, it's 9:06 p.m.
Yeah, I don't even know what's saying that in my house, but anyway, um, is you can easily disguise that learning that by just saying, like, I'm into camping, I'm into, I don't know if it's information, I'm into, animals, and you don't have to say what your end game is to,
Mhm.
the parents or to the friends that might, that you feel a little uncomfortable with, because
Yep.
all of this stuff touches so many different aspects of life. It doesn't have to just be one thing, you know?
Mhm. Another thing that you can ask them to get involved in and not tell them why you want to get involved or use a different reason is martial arts.
Yes.
tell them you're bored or you think it's interesting, or you want to get healthier, and ask them if you can get involved in martial arts and start
Yeah.
learning self-defense, hand-to-hand combat through martial arts, um, to be able to defend yourself. And this goes for children too. Start off young,
Yeah.
and they may be able to, what is that, stranger danger? Get away from
Yeah.
stranger danger, you
Absolutely.
know? Um, Try to get into those classes. If you are a teen or a young adult that's babysitting, tell them, you would like to learn first aid and
First
CPR
aid. Absolutely.
because you're babysitting. They don't have to know that you're really wanting to do it because you want to prepare for a disaster. But those are
Right.
skills that you can use in babysitting. Or if you have a younger sibling, tell them, hey, I would like to learn this, and then teach your younger sibling,
Right. Right.
you
And
know?
and parents, if you have a child that's interested in babysitting, get them in the first aid class. I know I made my daughter take the first aid, and it's not very expensive. And I'm sure there's free classes if you source it. If you did it like the American Red Cross, you might have to pay a couple dollars, but there's so many resources where you can get it for free,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
just, you know, the more that you know, the more confident you are. And when you're confident, that
Mhm.
carries into these other aspects
Yep.
of
And you
being
you brought
mentally
up Boy
prepared.
Scouts too. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H. Um,
Yep.
those all teach you skills too, and those are things that parents will probably support you going into.
Yeah.
But you'll learn these same basic skills, and then you can teach yourself some things too by watching the
Yes.
videos. Trial and error, but definitely have somebody around if you do. Like if you want to make a stove from bricks outside,
Yeah.
these are resources that you either have around the house or could find
Yes.
close to home, that you can start repurposing things. So
That's a
repurpose.
great skill. Yeah, that's a
Mhm,
skill in itself. I mean, we used to build. I lived in like an area where there was lots of woods, even as a child, and we'd find old tires and pieces of,
yep.
limber and the things we would create with this stuff. It's important. And it was interesting too to like look at that stuff. So, go into the woods and find things if you live by the woods.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's so many different things, even the water containers or old bags or just different things. Honestly, you can repurpose empty bottles,
Right.
not just water bottles, but like your medicine bottles, things
Yeah.
that you can put in there. You can put matches in there to keep them dry, or put
Yes.
your Vaseline uh, cotton balls in there to keep them, in one place and
Right.
dry. Um, there are things that you can use to repurpose. Start using your imagination, because anything that you can think up in your imagination, you can probably build if you take the time to try to build it,
Right.
and keep growing on those skills.
Yes.
Prepping and preparedness is ever changing, always improving, always fixing mistakes.
Yes.
You're just constantly,
It's a lifestyle.
it is. It absolutely is. And children, if they start now, teens, if they start now, they will be incredible by the time they're our age. They will know
Ab
10 times more than what
absolutely.
we do if
Yes.
they start now. I wish I would have started
Me too. Me
as
too.
a child. Um, let's talk real quick about if they want to make a bug out bag. What
Mm.
what are the things a child or a teen should know and should have in their bug out bag,
I mean, first and foremost, we kinda
or
touched a little bit on this, but, like, first aid, contact lists. You brought up the contact list, which I wasn't thinking of at the moment, but that's absolutely essential. And even for the teen, because, the phone goes down, they don't have it memorized, even though,
Mhm,
that's important. So, first aid, contact list, clothes, another set of clothes.
mhm.
Like you said, some candies or, you know, uh, freeze-dried food, something, water. Water is absolutely essential. And
Yes.
I'm a big map person. Like,
Mhm,
if you're home most of the time and you have a place that would be your place you're going to, whether it's somewhere remote or just, a parent's house, like have directions that aren't on a major highway.
mhm.
Because when if something, is a SHTF situation, you don't want to get on a highway and be gridlock. You don't want to be on, I-95 gridlock. You want the back roads. So make sure you have that way of getting there. So that would be obviously for older. The younger, I think we kind of said, but you add to whatever you're thinking.
Yeah, what I was gonna say, it was funny because you brought up you don't want to get gridlocked. So if you have to, and you need to know how to get home, and this is for kids too. If they're coming from school, something happens and they're coming from school and they have to get home because nobody's able to pick them up. They need to
Hmm.
know how to get home.
Yes.
But if you're going to have a backpack somewhere,
Yeah.
one thing is not having all your eggs in one basket. Have things
Yes.
placed.
Spread out.
You
Yeah.
you could be a kid and still have a hiding spot for a bag. And I know that sounds strange, but you could still have a hiding spot for a bag, for an
Yeah.
emergency bag to get home.
Right.
And one of the important things, if you are trying to get home, you're a child by yourself or a teen by yourself, one of the most important things is do not draw attention to yourself. So if you're going to have a backpack, it needs to be just a plain Jane or a plain Jack backpack. Don't
Yeah.
get something that looks like you know what you're doing. You're just a kid
Right.
coming back from school.
Right. Yeah.
It needs to look like you're just carrying some school books and whatever. They have no clue. Okay,
Right.
but get that. Don't draw attention to yourself. Make sure you have a
Right.
backpack that's just super plain. You don't need a bunch of sparkles and all that stuff. You want to not be seen trying to get home.
Right.
You want to make sure that you do have the necessities, like she had already said, the water and candies and food, so forth. And we're talking food like maybe a granola bar. We're not talking
Yeah.
about put a whole turkey in there. Um, you also, if you can have some sort of a multi-tool,
Yes.
a
Yeah.
small first aid kit,
Yes.
a bandana
Yes.
for different purposes, but that can also go in your first aid kit. Um,
Poncho.
Ponchos, uh, a different pair of shoes if you're somebody who goes to school in like a uniform and you have to wear those shoes that really hurt your feet.
Right.
Throw a different pair of comfortable shoes in that bag.
Absolutely.
Um, you also should have something else. Oh, communication. Like if your parents are on board, stick a two-way radio in there,
Yeah.
an
And like,
extra battery.
yeah.
Because if
Someone brought
you're,
up walkie-talkies too. That's another good one.
oh, yep, yep. So if you don't have a phone or your phone is dead, or let's say the teacher took your phone and you can't get it to the end of the year because you were on it during class and you shouldn't have been, and then something happens, you need to be able to get a hold of family members to let them know, hey, here's where I am. I'm on my way.
Yeah.
And then your map to get home. And also think of resources to get home. If you live a distance where you can't walk, um, do you have do you have the ability to find a bike? Can you
Or
ride a bike?
or is there a place that you can seek shelter that you would feel safe until
Mhm.
if night came down, so that's
Yep.
another thought.
Yep. Or are you supposed to go home or do you have a meeting place? Have you already talked to your parents or your siblings about a meeting place? Maybe
Right.
they go to a different school a couple blocks away. Do you
Yes.
meet up somewhere first and then go home together?
Right.
These are things that you can plan ahead before,
And then
crazy stuff happens.
even just a safe word. I mean, that was always big when we were
Mhm.
kids. You don't go with somebody. They said, "Hey, your mom sent me here to pick you up." Like, what's the safe word? And you already have that pre-planned with your family.
And that's super important. I can't tell you from personal experience, that's super important. I did not have one, and I was almost in a very bad situation when I was younger.
Oh,
Because I trusted the person, but luckily I was found by police. So
oh wow.
safe words, people joke and they think it's dumb, but honestly, safe words
No,
are for
yeah,
real. They're for real.
yeah.
So let me. That was all that I had. I was going to go to the questions. Do you have anything you want to add before I do?
Um, One of the things that I was just thinking about prior was just even, and this doesn't have to even be a long discussion, but having financial preparedness with your children, teaching them about being financially prepared and, how to do the things like balance a checkbook and save money and have cash on hand. We could still use it at least. And
Mhm.
having, what if the ATM goes down? These are things,
Mhm.
keeping maybe some money in your car hidden in a certain
That's a good
place.
point. Mhm.
So these are like just on a side note, that was something that I had thought about prior to the live stream.
Yep. Or even little kids, five
Yeah,
dollars in their shoe or something. Put it under the
absolutely.
sole of their shoe and tell them this is for emergencies only. Or a
Yes.
quarter. We used to have a quarter. We used to carry a quarter for a paper.
Right.
You ever had
Right.
to use it,
You'd
you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I did use it. I used it at school, a payphone,
Mhm.
so
Yeah. Yep. Keep those things.
yeah,
There's ways to hide money on yourself that in your objects that you take every single day,
right,
where you're not going to forget it at home because it's your shoes. You're going to put them on every single day. If you have $5, under the sole of your shoe, it's there for emergencies,
right,
um,
right,
and so forth.
yeah. Let's see that I think that was basically all I had.
Okay. There's a few questions here. So
Yeah,
Wolfie says he has a question about cell phones and when it's
mhm.
okay to give a young kid a cell phone.
Um, I can only speak from experience with my daughter who when she turned about 14 and now she's 25 now, so, we're going back some years. We gave her a cell phone and I was like, "Oh, well, just use this for emergencies or, if you wanna call mom or dad because we were divorced." I felt like the cell phone changed everything. It was it just took my sweet young girl who was interested in playing mini golf with mom to this. And
Yep.
we were out of Wi-Fi. It was like I removed her kidney. So in that aspect, I know with this one, I'm trying to keep him off of as much as I can with electronics. In fact, if he does scroll on a video and he sees a kid playing like whatever, some sort of video game or Roblox or I don't know what they are, he's like, "Oh, I don't want to watch that." He goes, "I don't like video games. It makes you not want to go outside and play." He literally says that, probably because I say it. So I don't know I don't know. You have the teens right now. What do you think?
I would say it depends on the maturity of the child and the circumstances.
Yeah.
So if you have a young child that is super responsible and say they are a latchkey kid, they need a
Yes.
cell phone.
Yes, I agree.
But if you are going to give them a cell phone, you need to have parental controls on that cell phone.
Absolutely.
And you need to understand that just because it is their cell phone, they still have no privacy on it with you being their parent.
Yes.
If they have a lock on it, a password on it, you are to have that password or they don't get their phone,
Yes. Yeah.
period. If
Yeah.
you tell them randomly, I want to see your phone, they should be handing over their phone, or they lose their phone.
Right. And
So
also, I was going to say a step further, know your kids' friends and who has access to cell phones and does that parent monitor. I would have no problem asking another parent, "Oh, so and so comes over and I see he has a cell phone. Do you have parental controls on that?" Because I wouldn't want my
mhm,
kid alone in a room with free access to the World Wide Web here.
mhm,
Absolutely not.
yep, yep, that's true. Um, there's more questions, but before I forget, there's something else I wanna bring up. Um, this is more for teenagers. I guess it can kinda be for kids too, but primarily for teenagers. Um, Teenagers can't have weapons, okay? They're not allowed to have guns. You have to be 21 to purchase a handgun. You have to be 18, I believe, or 16, depending on which state you're in, to have a shotgun. And that's not something you're going to carry to and from school, anyways. Or hopefully you're not. They can't have knives to and from school.
Right.
One of the things that they can research is anything can be used as a weapon in self defense. You
Yeah.
need to learn how to use it, whether it be your keys in your hands between your
Yes.
fingers.
Yes.
Walk home. If you have to walk home in the dark, put those keys between your fingers, whether
Pointing
you
out.
use them or
Yeah.
not, ready. Um, Something like if you have a lighter, if you have a battery, if you're a vapor, whatever, take one of those batteries in your fist and hold it there because that is going to make your punch a whole lot more powerful. You need
Right.
to know where to hit. You need to know where to kick, when to use
Right.
your knee, uh, to bite, where to bite. Um,
Yes.
don't be afraid to do any of those things, but realize that just about anything, if
Could
you
be a
know how to
weapon.
use it properly, can be used as a weapon in self defense. A pencil, carry a
Yes.
pencil in your hand or a pen in your hand on the way home.
Yes.
Um, any of those things can be used. Don't be afraid to use those.
Right.
I wanted to bring that up too because a lot of kids they're like, you have pepper spray and you have all that, but even pepper spray is not allowed to be in school. And
Right.
the body alarms are not necessarily going to work all the time, and some people won't turn their heads for it. If you have a car, do what Catskill did: set off your car alarm. Even in the
Yeah.
middle of the night, set off your car alarm. If you're in a parking garage by yourself and you think somebody's following you, set off your car alarm. Even
Right.
if nobody's around, you're going to set off an alarm to where that person is going to be like, holy crap, you just brought a whole bunch of attention.
Absolutely.
Pepper spray too, you have to be careful because if you have to use it and it is windy, you need to make sure you're not downwind. Pepper spray is
Yeah.
not always going to be able to help you. It could hinder you.
And sometimes they leak. I know firsthand because I got it on my hands and yeah. I mean, I didn't spray it. It was actually physically leaking. So yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes those things aren't always the best. And if you live in a state like I do in New York, you can't get a hold of a lot of this stuff half the time.
Yep, yep. A perfume bottle. A lot of girls have perfume sprays in their purses, body sprays in their purses. Use
Yeah,
that if you have to. Straight
that
into
would
the
burn.
eyes.
Yeah,
If they can't see you, they can't find you.
and if it's burning them, they're going to be distracted.
Yeah. So definitely do research on different things that you can use. If you see a big old rock on the ground, chuck it at them.
Yeah,
Use
and
what's around.
and don't do this while you're walking. You know, get your
Yeah,
head out of the phone.
and the earbuds.
Situation. Yes, situational
Hmm.
awareness.
Yeah. If you are going to have earbuds in, at least have it to where it's transparent so you can still hear what's going on as well as
Right.
what you're listening to. Um, Watch people's reactions. Watch groups of people, how they move, if they're moving around you, if they
Yeah.
are corralling you
Right.
somewhere that you don't want to be, which you have to be aware that if you have somebody following behind you and you're walking by a alley and somebody walks in front of you before the alley, they are trying to corral you to that alley. Do not go down the alley. Go across
Yeah.
the street.
Yes. Yeah.
Stop a car. If you have to stop a car to tell them, hey, I need help. I need help. You know,
Yeah.
stop a car.
Make a scene. Make a
Yeah.
scene.
Anyway, sorry. I thought about that, so I wanted to.
Yeah. No, it's important.
I didn't want it to be gone. Um, oh yeah, actually, that's funny because Pete's roaming preppers next question was discussing for junior high and high school EDC that wouldn't get them in trouble.
Okay.
Um, so we kind of just touched on that.
Yeah.
Um, what basics do you pack for the kids? I think that we touched on that.
I would say so.
Have you taught your kids? This is from Prepared Irishman. Have you taught your kids martial arts or some type of awareness training and what to do in a situational event? Have you taught your
Um,
kids?
I mean, my youngest is in karate, so you know, he's 5. So it's interesting that, they're obviously teaching different moves and things, but the karate class for him and the way the instructor teaches is a lot of these like situational awareness. So he'll have them do the move, disarm, like I said, and then he'll say, "Scream, you're not my mom or dad," and run. And he'll say, "Run to a mom," as we're all watching, other than your own, and ask for help and tell him your phone number. So this is
Mhm.
how he does the class. So yeah, I mean, he's not learning how to put someone to sleep at 5, but he is learning these other skills. So yes, he is.
Mhm. As far as me, my son and I used to do martial arts together. We used to do competitions together.
Awesome.
And my stepson is also martial arts. So everyone in this house has taken martial arts
Yeah.
at one point or another, or is still currently in martial arts.
Yes.
Um, so we have done the martial arts and situational awareness.
Yeah.
Um,
I've done
so
self-defense with my daughter, self-defense classes, and it made you know what it did? It made me realize how not proficient I was in it and how much more I did need to train. Because even
mhm,
going through the exercises, I wasn't super great at it, and I thought I would be because
mhm.
I just thought I was, and I wasn't. So, it's important to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you what. When I first went into martial arts, I was really good at martial arts. I'm very fast. So even if you're not super strong, if you have speed, it's an advantage.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to do practice sparring in class often with our classmates.
Yeah.
And one time, my instructor made me spar with him,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, all right. And let me tell you, when a foot goes into your chest, no matter how much padding you have, and you fly across a room and it knocks the wind out of
Yeah.
you, it
Yeah.
humbles you. very quickly, and it
Yeah.
makes you learn that you need to block at all times.
Right. That's the way to learn,
'Cause
I guess, right?
oh, yeah. Yeah, I made that mistake one time and one time only, and,
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna die, honestly,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I could not breathe. It was an
I
accident, but he got me.
I will say to prepare Irishman, he was at, Hudson Valley's Prepping and Survival, and we were doing some, drills together, so shout
I
out
did
to my roundhouse kick he had me doing, so and
I
I told
hope
him
if
that.
he
Go ahead.
I would say I hope if he makes it to mine that he, does the same thing, because
It
that
was
would
a
be
lot
fun.
of fun.
I'd love to spar with him. That'd be
Yeah,
so much fun.
it was a lot of fun. Yep.
Mhm. Another question, what are some survival skills that you've taught your kids also from Prepared Irishman?
Um, I mean, I love food preservation, so my son does that stuff with me all the time. And, from just even planting the seeds, and seed starters to the garden to harvesting to, processing it. So from start to finish, I love that. It's my passion. So I'm kind of like passing it down to him because he's with me all the time and it's a good skill to learn. So I would say that would be like the main one. His father does a lot of, you know, uh camping and, fire building and how to build the fire. So there's always something, and we also do like we we make maple syrup here and there's just I mean, I hate to say, but he knows how to make moonshine. He understands about the corn and the mash, and he'll say, "Is that moonshine?" I'm like, "Oh my goodness. Okay, well, all right." So yeah,
He
it's
can
a
make me some
skill. It's a
moonshine.
skill. Yes, my husband built his own still and everything else, and yeah, he does it with his dad sometimes. So
Yep. Um, so my kids, they do the camping thing too, so they know how to start a fire, they know how to gather wood, they know how to cut trees
yeah,
down.
right.
I have one that is very good at making knots and whittling wood
Oh,
to make things
interesting.
out of it.
Yeah,
Um, uh, they they both know how to cook on an open fire. They both know how to preserve food to some extent. They both, well, I should say one more than the other is familiar with first aid,
right,
the first aid skills, and mm, they know how to prepare for natural disasters as far as, the things you need to get if the power goes out, what you do if the power goes out, the candles, the flashlights, the
hmm,
blankets,
right,
hiking shoes if we have to go out, um, and so forth. They know the self defense for survival, and uh, they both actually, even though one doesn't like to, they both do know how to use a firearm. Um, one of them very, very well. He knows how to
excellent,
use um, all different calibers.
right,
He's very good at it, and he is eager to learn more. The other one is a little bit more scared of firearms because of personal experiences with his friends.
right,
Um, but there is one that also enjoys different knives and is
right,
very good with handling knives. Um, so they're pretty well balanced for their ages, I think. And then, of course, the situational awareness, how to get out of bad situations,
yes,
things to look for. Um, they know how to build shelters
right.
if they have to. They know how to fish, of course.
Yeah,
Uh,
sounds like you're
so
doing an
for,
excellent job, mom.
it's not just me. Some of it's hubby alone, but
Yeah,
we definitely do it together, and we make it fun.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
fun when we do it.
yeah.
So the prepared Irishman, his last question is, could we have you guys compete in a celebrity death match at the meetup?
She is gonna kick my butt. She'll kick
No
my butt.
way. No,
I don't
I
know,
don't think
I'll
so.
fight dirty though, so but
I think we should gang up on Irishmen for just
that's
suggesting that.
th there you go, there you go. I'm with that, I'm with that. And and her and I are about the same size, right? We're like
Yeah,
pretty eye
yeah,
to eye, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
it's really funny.
We're small, but we're dynamite in small packages.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I think that was all the questions in the question section. Does anyone have any other questions? I'm going to close the question tab, but if you have any final questions, um, please put them in there now. I can figure out how to close the question thing. Oh, here. Okay. If you have any final questions, if you could please put them in there now. Um, and we will try to answer them. We've been going for um, an
Hour and
hour
a
and a
half.
half. Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we're good talkers.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot that we wanted to cover. There
Yeah.
was something else too, but I can't remember. Darn if I can't remember what it is. I'll probably remember as soon as I close the live. Um, what I wanted to bring up, but
Um, yeah, I'm just looking at some notes I posted for myself. I don't see anything else
man,
that
I
I
wish I
have
could
for you.
remember. It was a good one too, and I forgot.
Um,
All right. Well, if I remember it, we will
put it in
um,
the comments.
put it in the comments, or we'll do this again. I'm sure we
Yeah.
have great back and forth and great ideas from both sides. Um, we have good discussions, and I definitely appreciate you doing this with me.
Oh,
And
I'd love to. Thank you. I appreciate you asking me. And I mean, I love talking all this stuff. Doing videos is I appreciate anyone that makes videos because it's a lot of work to make them. So, you guys doing I kind of fell off a little bit, which is why I'm on Instagram because it's just easy and quick and just put it out like that. When my son used to take naps, I used to do videos, but he's not napping anymore. So I am very happy to be on and I appreciate it.
it's rough for sure. It's
Yeah.
rough.
Hmm.
Um, so Marco dropped the link for Catskill's channel.
YouTube. Yeah. And then I'm also, like I said, if you want to talk more, I'm specifically on Instagram a lot more lately, though I do check my YouTube.
Let me see if I can pull that up. Um,
And I'm pretty responsive on there usually. Probably more than I should be. I should put the phone down myself.
I'm terrible with Instagram. I don't like I should.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to pull your link for Instagram.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Um, I can figure. Oh, yep. Here we go. Okay. So
Yeah, I do a lot more current events and news and just kind of randomly discuss the crazy that's out there, sprinkled with kid pictures and occasionally cooking and prepping stuff.
there we go. Here we go.
Oh, thank you, dear guy. That's awesome. Thank you.
All right. So check her out on Instagram. Check her out on YouTube. She's more active on Instagram than YouTube. Than YouTube. than YouTube. Um,
As of lately, but it might shift. Who knows?
Yeah, we will definitely do this again. If you have not hit the like, please, you guys hit the like. If you can share so that hopefully this gets to other teens and
Yeah.
kids.
Yes.
We tried to keep this as G rated or PG rated as possible because if you guys know us, you know that we were very tame tonight. We did very well. I'm so proud of us.
Right? I
Um,
don't think we said any cuss words, right? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think we did good. I think we did
Okay.
good. Gear Guy wants to know if you're coming. Oh, am I coming up to New York? I don't plan on any time soon. I have been up there, but I'm having a meetup in October in Virginia.
Yeah.
So you are more than welcome to come to Virginia and come and meet me. And I think
I'm
Catskill's going to try
I'm
to come
gonna
down
try
there.
to, yeah. Yes.
hmm
I don't see why not.
There's going to be a few of us down there. It's October 13th, 14th, and 15th in Zuni, Virginia, at Blackwater Birds and Bees. So you are
Okay.
more than welcome to come down there, and it's just a meetup. We have a couple people that are willing to volunteer their time to teach some things,
Okay.
but it's mostly going to be camping. And I know that you can learn how to forage there because the owner of the property has foraging tours. Um, Also, Virginia Bushcrafter is going to teach some bushcrafting skills.
Oh, wonderful.
Irishman is going to come and let us beat him up, so he'll teach some self-defense because he's going to need it.
And so we might need someone doing first aid after.
Well, yeah, they could do first aid as well. And then I know that I have a personal friend also coming up with us from South Carolina to teach firearms.
Okay.
Um, and they have a shooting range at where we're going to do the meetup, so you can actually
Okay.
get some hands-on.
Oh, wow.
Um, if you want to come, it does not cost you anything.
Okay.
I am paying for this myself. So if
Oh,
y'all want
wow.
to come and enjoy yourselves and learn some things or just come and camp and relax and meet up, you are more than welcome. If you have any questions, you can email me at mymothersspark.com. Catskill, I don't know, do you want to leave your email in case they want to get a hold of you for anything?
Yeah. You can always email me. It's Catskill New York Prepper at gmail.com. But again, Instagram direct messaging is usually the best, and I'm very responsive usually.
Unless you want her phone number, it's
No.
867-5309.
Exactly.
Um, Otherwise, you guys, I don't think we have anything else. That was pretty much it. Don't forget to leave a comment so that YouTube shares this out. Hopefully, some kids will get a hold of this and it gives them some advice and some ideas. Um,
Thank you to
but
everyone that just subbed. I was reading the comments. I appreciate it and look forward to chatting with you all.
definitely. And we hope to see you all soon. Catskill, of course, hang out for a minute and we'll chat. And of course, I'm going to remember what I forgot, I'm sure, as soon as I click
Yes.
it. Um, Otherwise, you guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for my moderators.
Yes.
Catskill, as always, it's a pleasure having you here to talk and throw ideas at each other and different perspectives.
Yeah. It's important to have more females in the preparedness community and speaking. So I appreciate you and all the other ladies out there doing your thing. We all have so much to learn from each other.
Definitely. Be safe in the community. Be alert. Teach your children. Don't scare your children. And always know that God is in control over everything. So have
Absolutely.
faith. We are going to be okay. Just teach your children about God as well so that they know that they are going to be okay.
Especially
Faith,
nowadays.
yes, faith over fear. So good
Absolutely.
night, everyone.
Good night.
Mwah.
Thank you guys. Take care.